Gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Hide Site. I'm a United States Army sniper currently serving, and in today's video we are going to talk about shot placement, or where to shoot on your target. Now, there are three main areas that a sniper may consider to impact on his target, and that's going to be the head, the critical A zone or the upper A zone, and the pelvic girdle. And we're going to get into what particular circumstances would dictate which area on your target you should intend to shoot. Gentlemen, now I want to preface with that I never script any of my videos, and I'm always shooting from the hip, so we'll just see how this goes. If at any point I'm rambling, feel free to just click off. Now, we're going to discuss center mass, or that critical A zone. Now, you see 95% to 99% of your engagements, the majority of your engagements, are going to be center mass. Now, reason being is because center mass allows for the largest room of error. You see, when intending to hit the head, it's very easy for that round to go off the shoulders or miss your target entirely. Now, when aiming center mass on your target's abdomen, again, largest room of error. You see, a sniper intends to engage whatever will allow the highest hit probability. You see, we're not using .22 long rifle out here. The weapon systems we'll be employing are using high-powered or full-powered cartridges, okay? Taking .308 to the abdomen is going to do some serious damage, and you're likely not getting back up. But, however, there are certain circumstances where the abdomen may not be the optimal area on your target to engage. For example, body armor, right? On the screen, I'm going to put a picture of David Bautista. He played in Guardians of the Galaxy, wearing some body armor in some sci-fi movie. If that dude walks out of my objective, I might consider a pelvic girdle shot, okay? And we'll get into the pelvic girdle later. Now, body armor isn't the only circumstance in where we may consider engaging somewhere else on our target. You see, whenever I see guys going to the range, they typically have their targets fully presented to them. And this is unrealistic. You know, feel free to watch some combat footage or police shootouts on the internet. And one thing that you'll see consistently is in gunfights, people are constantly on the move. And they're not just fully presenting themselves waiting to get shot at, right? They're gonna try and hide, they're gonna run. So, you know, shooting at a target that is fully presented itself isn't necessarily realistic, which is why I encourage you guys to alter your targets, which we'll talk about later in this video. Now, let's move on from the abdomen, right? When would we consider to maybe engage the head? Well, you see, I wouldn't consider engaging the head if the target is any further than 200 meters. And this is because the head is a very inconsistent part of the body, right? The head is on a swivel. It's constantly moving, ducking, doing things, right? It's just, and on top of that, it's a small target, okay? Like I explained earlier, it's very easy to miss the head because it's constantly moving, or if he's very far, it's a very, very, very small target to engage. So what does that leave us with? Well, that leaves us with the pelvic girdle. Now, you see, the pelvic girdle is just as wide as the abdomen, which is why it's a more optimal area on the body to engage than the head. A much more consistent part of the body that is going to be more squared off to you typically, does not move as much. Now, in addition to the pelvic girdle being a larger area on the body to engage, being more optimal than the head, additionally, it is an immobilizing shot, right? Of course, engaging someone in the head is going to put the lights out immediately, but again, we need to hit it first. Well, you see, the pelvic girdle, going back to David Bautista, doesn't matter how big of a guy you are. You see, if I put rounds in your hips, right? If I put rounds in your pelvic girdle, you are going to go down. It is an extremely painful shot. And no matter your pain tolerance, again, you're going to go to the ground because there's soft tissues, bone, joints, arteries, very key features and parts of the body that, if torn apart by, you know, FMJ or whatever round you're using, it's going to do some serious damage. So the pelvic girdle is a great solution to a target that is very heavily armored or presenting itself in a weird way. Now, in addition to this, I may consider a pelvic girdle shot if I intend to maim my target. Now, this is where the concept of shot placement becomes a little questionable, kind of a gray area, where the morality of it is questionable. But you see, all is fair in love and war. Now, I may intend to shoot my guy in the pelvic girdle for two reasons, okay? One, again, shooting a guy center mass or in the head is going to put lights out immediately most of the time. However, if I shoot a guy in the pelvic girdle that is a guaranteed 15 minutes of screaming and agony. Now you see, this is going to cause two things. One, he now becomes a burden to the rest of his element. You see, his team may feel obligated now to evacuate him or withdraw him because he is still alive. Now, what this does for me is it exposes more targets. There's more targets of opportunity for me because guys feel the need to come get him now.
Now, I'm recording this next part from my truck because I am on the road, unfortunately, so you'll have to forgive me for the poor audio quality. Now, what's on the screen currently is an image of a Marine unit during the invasion of Iraq. And what you can see here is one of these Marines, while this element was crossing a road, was hit by an Iraqi sniper and immediately incapacitated. So he lays there in the open. Now, his gunnery sergeant felt the need to run back out there and try and drag this guy away, which is a very honorable thing, right? A very heroic thing. And in a way, as grotesque as this image is, it's a very beautiful thing that this man felt the need to do that. Now, here's the issue with that is this was likely the Iraqi sniper's intent or goal to begin with, right? Is, you know, if I've got this element crossing this road and they're in the wide open, you know, if I maim this guy or I incapacitate this guy right here in the open, his entire element is now bogged down because they're obligated to, they can't leave him there, right? They're obligated to get him at some point. And now the problem with this is this creates, as I said, targets of opportunity for that sniper. And so, unfortunately, that gunnery sergeant that went out there to rescue this guy became a target himself.
In addition, let's say no one comes out to get him. Well, no one's coming out to get him probably because they're a little scared. You see, watching your leader or your best friend scream in agony on the ground for 15 minutes is going to be a serious hit to your morale and headspace, which again is maybe not a good thing for them, but a very good thing for me. Moving on, I mentioned earlier how too many people go to the range and they shoot at targets that have fully presented themselves. And again, this is unrealistic. Now, I encourage you guys to alter your targetry, whether you use IPSC, printouts, doesn't matter. I would take some spray paint, and the color is insignificant, however, I use red. And I would alter your targetry. So for example, here I've painted an overly armored target, right? I painted the head, painted the critical A zone, so those are not options. So I would consider a pelvic girdle shot for this guy. Another example I've got here is a rectangle, right, representing plates or for body armor. So if this guy's very close to me, I might consider a headshot and put the lights out. However, if he's very far, again, I'll just consider that pelvic girdle shot. Or I've got a third example. This is just simply a diagonal line painted across this guy. And so yes, his critical A zone is still exposed. However, I am limited as far as to what part of that A zone I can engage. And you guys can get creative with this. Now, this is not only for precision weapon systems, right, or through the lens of a sniper. Even for you guys that only do carbine or pistol, I encourage you to do the same thing, as it's going to put you through more realistic scenarios and ultimately make you a better shooter. Now, I don't think I have missed anything, but however, again, this is not scripted and I did shoot from the hip entirely. So if at any point, you know, you have something to add or want to argue with me, I do enjoy arguing with strangers on the internet. So feel free to comment. I love the conversation. I love the things that guys feel the need to add. I enjoy reading them, and it's good for the other people that watch this as well, as they continue to learn, even if they go through the comments. So again, if you have anything to add, feel free to. Now, what I want to leave you guys with, or what I really want to drive home, is that there are circumstances where just shooting this guy anywhere is simply just not good enough. I encourage you guys to go to the range and, like I showed you, alter your targets to really challenge yourself, because that's how you're going to get better. You're not doing yourself any favors if every time you go to the range you're just magged up and sideways, you know, trying to hit these targets wherever. So
what I'd like to add to this, right, is again, most guys are going to the range, just putting up a blank target, and then the beep goes off and they just start blasting, and that's perfectly fine, right? Certainly that's applicable to some situations or circumstances. However, what I'm recommending here is far more complicated than just making your targetry more complex with some spray paint. You know, this concept of shot placement forces you to adopt a shot process, right? So first I have to find my target. Well, now that I've found it, I have to quickly assess my target, right? I have to determine, okay, is this guy exposed? Well, what parts of him are exposed? Where can I shoot this guy? What's going to cause the most amount of damage, or what's going to neutralize this guy the fastest? And then once I've come to that conclusion, okay, well, now I can, you know, act on that and go ahead and engage this guy.
some of you might be saying, oh, okay, well, all this is just going to go out the window anyways. Why does it matter? When it comes to my moment, I'm just going to mag dump this guy and call it a day. And, again, that's fine. I'm not saying, if you get approached at a gas station by Ahmed Kebab al-Baghdadi who's cracked out, that you have to turn into Robert Downey Jr. from Sherlock Holmes and pause time or anything, right? That's just unrealistic. However, there may be circumstances where you've got a guy who's far enough that's going to give you time to do this. Or maybe the target's very far and doesn't even know you're there and you have time to make this assessment, right? This is just a concept that's probably foreign to most people or most shooters. So this is just something to think about the next time you've got some ammo, some targetry, and some spray paint, and you've got a range to go to. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, we'll call it. And I hope to catch you guys in the next one.